Hello. Hi, guys. You are welcome to the Getting Education Consulting plus Tega Code
Hi.
101. We're so glad you're here. But before we go in, let us know who you are and where you're joining us from. We want to know where our connections have reached. So, you guys, you need to relax. For those of you who are here and those who are going to be joining us soon, this is a very informal session. So, I want you to, just be free to talk to us and ask us questions. But before we go in, I'm trying to do my best to wait a little bit for other people that are going to join us before we go into the core of this class. So in the meantime, I'm just going to ask Tega to introduce herself. I will introduce myself as well. And then I will tell you why you should, be here and stick with us. All right, Tega,
Okay.
it's yours.
Yeah, I'll take the stage. Welcome, everyone. My name is Tega Obikwe. I'm a PhD student at the Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand. And my PhD is in international business. What else is there to say? I'm passionate about education and fitness and just passing information to people and people just having information readily available to them. So I'm really excited to be here today to share what I know about cold emailing and also learn from you guys too,
Yeah.
from your questions and from your suggestions and from your experiences. So yeah, I hope it's a good time that we'll spend together today.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I'm just going to do a quick shout out to some of you in the room. Farukat, I can see you. Jade from the UK, Tosi from the UAE, Chidima from Lagos, Lillian from the US, Joy from Lagos, Chijoke from Lagos, Inkem from Enugu, Ore from Boston. We're international.
We are.
Infon from Praharkat, Bad Day, Ini from South Africa, Bukola from Lagos, Angela from Accra, Yewande from Lagos, Daisy Bamishokwe, I know you're in Lagos, Lillian, Onyida, Tosin, Temi, Farukat, you are all welcome. So my name is Mariam Mamadou, and I'm the CEO of Get Education Consulting. I'm also a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto Faculty of Law, where my research basically explores African regional integration and how non-state actors can participate in the region building through private regulation. So that's in summary. But for me, I'm really passionate about education as well, and that's why we're having this session, because guys, education can be your connect. Really, you can really level up using your education or using your network. And one of the things that is important today is really connecting with people who can help you and who you can also learn from. So based on my experiences and Tega's experiences, like, we've received all sorts of emails and we've sent all sorts of emails. So we're having this session to basically give you like a 101 on, how to email people properly, so that you, with the possibility of getting like a higher, response. There are no guarantees anywhere, but if you apply some of these tips, we expect you to get a higher response. So before I hand over to Tega and ask a couple of questions, I'm just gonna put it out there. If you can hear, just let us know that you can hear and you can see. Right? I need somebody to let us know, because Chidima says she can't hear anything, but that might be a network problem. I just need to be sure that some of you can hear and see me. In addition, this is going to be available. You can also replay this webinar after. It's going to be available indefinitely. So even if your network is bad right now, you can join. You can join later. You can watch it later. The only disadvantage is you can't ask questions. So we advise that you stick. We advise that you stick with us. So you're going to learn how to look for people that can, advance your career, professional, academic goals. You're going to also learn how to send effective emails. You're going to learn what not to do in your emails, as well as, how to handle rejection when you don't get what you want. So the first thing I'm going to ask there, guys, why is cold emailing a big deal? What is the big deal? Why should anybody care about cold emailing? Why should I be awake at 6 o'clock? And why should you be awake at 11 p.m. to talk about cold emailing?
Okay, well, I mean, the truth of the matter is the world is global, so it's a really big place and everyone is scattered everywhere, but we're still having to compete and rely on each other, right? So, for instance, you might not have access, physical access to someone who is really important. What I do doesn't mean I should have a competitive advantage over you just because of my
Mm,
location, right? So the question becomes, how then can I still be able to compete with this person given the resources that they have if this said resource, for instance, is another higher person or another higher professional? So you're basically cold emailing basically helps you to shrink that physical distance that serves as a disadvantage and just gives you that direct access to get value out of people,
yeah.
even without being present or right next to them.
Mhm.
It's really important because unfortunately, you might be in locations where professionals or people in your field, top people in your field, are not around you. Does that automatically mean that you can't have access to these people?
Yeah.
So cold emailing just kind of shrinks all of that distance and all of that over reliance on physical presence and
Yeah.
just makes it possible for you to get best out of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm just going to ask you guys a quick question to see who has ever sent a cold email before and just to see if you guys are already into it. But I'm pretty much echoing what Tega has said. Look, the world is global and you need people for almost everything. I can't think of what you don't need people for. If you're trying to do a PhD, you'll need a supervisor. You need to sometimes, I mean, some schools say you don't have to contact the supervisors, but sometimes, you would have to, a lot of times, most times, you're going to have to send an email to supervisor and say, hi, do you want to work with me? That is a cold email. You are trying to break into a particular professional path, and you see somebody who's sort of who has an undergrad degree in chemistry, and now they're working in one of the big consulting firms, and you have a degree in chemistry and you're wondering how you can work with PwC. A cold email will get you some information on what the person did. So now that it's clear, I think I asked a question: who has cold emailed before, or I tried to. Yeah, so 64% say that they have sent a cold email, and 38% say they haven't sent a cold email. So I think we have more people who understand the value, yeah, of sending cold emails. Interesting. I'm going to be asking you guys questions from time to time, just so that we are feeling your pulse. And if you have any questions at the end, at any point during the session, you can put it down, but ask it as a question. There's a little button there you can click and say it's a question so that it will highlight as read and I won't miss it. Right. So the next thing I want to ask, let's go straight into the meat of the issue.
Yes.
What shouldn't you do when you're sending an email to someone? What are the forbidden things of cold email, forbidden actions of cold emailing?
Um, wow. Where do I even begin from? Should we talk about that first? Talk about what to do, because maybe that might give context. But anyways, I would say the first thing to avoid will be uh, generic messages,
Yeah.
where you just don't even try to create a mutual connection or any sort of connection with the person,
Yeah.
or try to let them know that you're not going to waste your time.
Yeah.
I think that you need to avoid those kind of emails. I know I've received a lot of emails, and when I read them, they feel like, this email was just forwarded to like 100 of us, and maybe one
Yeah.
of us will respond. And
Mm-hmm.
it's you might think it's not detectable, but it is. It's a
Very well.
generic is not. The connection is not there. So always try to personalize the emails that you send
Mm-hmm.
and just avoid generic emails. The second thing I actually think is should be avoided is saying thanks in advance. People have people
Fair
have
enough.
different opinions about that, but I
Mm-hmm.
just think it's been a little bit too forward. Like now you're trying to tie my hands into a situation where I have to respond to you because you said thank you in
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah.
I would rather you say, I do understand that you have a busy schedule and whatever time you can make for me is appreciated, you know?
Yes.
So those little things are just things that might make people feel like, oh, do I really have to do this?
And just to
Um,
add, at the end of this session, we're going to be actually looking at emails and having like a practical class where you guys critique the emails and we all, give our opinions on the emails. Okay. So that's going to come at the end. So we're not just all about the talk. We're teachers. Like, hello.
I'm actually a teacher.
What do you expect? We have to teach you. You must learn. In fact, we're going to send you your assignment after the live session. But just kidding. Just kidding. So,
Yeah.
go on, Tega.
Okay, yeah. Something else that is also really, it's borderline here because it's like you want to sound or come across as intelligent or well spoken when you send your emails, but
Yeah.
there's a borderline between just using being intelligent and using jargon,
Yeah.
and people think it's a way to impress by using big grammar, and if they see that I can speak English, they will be impressed.
Yeah.
But it's a bit confusing sometimes, and it
Mm.
just is totally unnecessary. And people actually you actually lose the information you're trying to send across when
Yeah.
you focus so much on using jargon and
Mhm.
complex kind of English. So
Yeah.
keep it simple, keep it straightforward. I think finally, two messages that are too long should be avoided
Mm-hmm.
because Miriam and I were talking
On this
about it
table.
previously. Miriam and I were talking about it previously. I know you want to get out as much and you want to be specific, but the human attention span is really, really short. I think it's 8 to 11 seconds.
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about this in detail later in terms of when you things you should do. But
Mm-hmm.
people don't really want to read the except
Yeah.
you guys have established a connection before and then you're talking further. But for first emails, for cold emails, I think specific and short should be doing too long.
Yeah.
Should be avoided.
Only reason why how you can get away with long email is if you just, and I mean, it's not advisable still, but it's if you know in your heart that this email is just bad. By bad, I mean really good.
Okay,
Like,
there's a question there, sorry, that says how long is too long?
aha. So I think let's hold on and take the questions. Like maybe when we wrap up the session on what not to do, we can answer questions, or we can wait till the end. I'm not sure, but let's run through this first, and then we'll answer the questions. But ask away. Just make sure you use the Q mark. So if the only reason why you would get a response with a long email is if that email is amazing and the person is really interested in meeting with, like, that you've hit the spot, based on what you're saying. But I think you shouldn't write an email that is too long in the first place. Then another thing that you should not do in your cold email is ask a question that you can find the answer to online.
Mm-hmm. Like, how do you write a business plan?
Yes, or how can I submit my application to this program?
But something that you're supposed to do yourself and you're asking
Yes,
the person to do it for you.
yes, don't do that. It's
Yeah.
bad. Don't do that. So that is one. I think that's what, like, my biggest pet peeve. Like, if you Google this, you will find the answer. Do not come into somebody's email who is busy, and ask them a question that you can find the answer to online. It makes you look like you're not thorough. Looks like you haven't done your research. So they're less likely. And we're gonna talk about the kind of people that people are more likely to respond to when we go into what you ought to do. So they're less likely to spend their time like, oh, wow, am I going to invest my limited resources on somebody who has not invested time on them, in themselves? Another thing you shouldn't do is to command people in your cold email. So I want to talk to you about, or I give me another one. I see them all the time. I want to, when can I talk to you about, or something like that appears like you're not being considerate about their
Or you're not asking,
oh, yes, you're not asking, you're telling them, so
telling them.
when are we discussing so and so, don't do that. Like, and you need to be careful about your language, because sometimes you don't intend to come across that way, but you end up coming across that way. So one of the things that I do is I'm excessively polite, even to the point of maybe it's a bit too much, because I don't want there to be any confusion as to the fact that I am asking for your help. I don't want it to be like, okay, cool, you do this, I do this, let's talk. We are supposed to know each other. There's nobody is nobody is obliged to
Yeah.
spend their time with you. No one, even if you know that you guys are going to get along really well, nobody's obliged to. Then the other thing that I was going to say is, no, I think I said that. You already said the typos and being generic and also jargon. I think those are fantastic points. So let us quickly see if there are any particular questions that we can answer. So the one question we have is still the how long is too long? Tega, I'm on the table, so maybe I can't speak. So how long is too long?
Okay, so I have it's I'm a models person. I like creating models for everything. Okay, so I have a model that is 80 to 60, 8 to 60. So
Okay.
basically, let me break it down like this. Okay, the essence of every email is for it to be read.
Yeah.
Okay, you want the person to read the email, and the essence of the first line of your email is that the person reads it and want to read the second line.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so in my mind, the average person has a attention span of 8 to 11 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time that's probably long enough for them to read the first line of your email, okay? So by the time that 8 to 11 seconds are over and they're at the end of your email, of the first line of your email, that line should be so good that
Yeah.
it restarts the 8 seconds for them to go to the second line.
That's a good
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, so that is how I say it. And then I try to keep it that short and make sure that everything can be read in 60 seconds.
Okay.
Like if you skim through it, that's why it's important that your grammar is good. You're not using jargon, so they don't have to think. See, emails that have give people too much work reduces your chances of getting any sort of response at all. Like people don't want to overthink it; they want to read it, get what you're trying to say, and move on. Respond as well, like real fast. And when we start talking about what you should do, we'll probably emphasize that more. But it should be able to convey your message in less than 60 seconds. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and also you just need to, like, you to ask yourself, if I'm this person, would I really read this long email? Put yourself in their shoes as well. So let us go into what you should do, and after that we'll talk briefly about how you can even find these people in the first place, people you should be connecting with.
Yeah.
And then we would go into the practical session, which I think is the meat of this. So you need to stick around till the practical class. All right, so Tega, what should you do in your old email then? What should you be doing? I said, oh, don't do this,
Wow.
don't do that. What should you actually be doing in your emails?
It's there's so many things you have to consider. The first thing I would say is when you're writing a cold email, it's to visualize like the recipient's email, okay, the email box. And just imagine like there are 40 of you sending the same cold email to this person. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you open the email, what they'll say is probably names and subjects, right? Subject line. So the first thing you want to do is to make sure that your subject line is going to catch the person's attention. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be anything funny
Mm-hmm.
or, what I normally use that has worked for me, funny enough. I didn't like it at first, but it works, is just trying to connect. It's that
Mm-hmm.
simple. Because the first thing that comes to your mind is, who is this person? What are they trying to connect with? What do they
Mm-hmm.
want? What do they have to offer? So many questions are immediately popping there, and then forced to open your email. And then I lay the magic in the first line. So, just try to use that simple or sometimes just introduction in your name. They'll be like, oh, who's
Yeah.
this person? Why are they introducing themselves to me? You know, don't try to be catchy, like, some funny things. And in as much as we want our subject line to catch the reader's
Mm-hmm.
attention, it also has to be related to what's in the content of the email that you've sent. Don't just say, oh, I want to catch a subject line, and then you create some sort of excitement
Real
or
gimmick. Yeah.
expectations, and then they
Yeah.
open the email and then there's nothing there, you
Yeah.
know? So I think the first thing to actually consider is, for me, the getting the subject line correct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Should I go on, or do you have
Go
something
on,
to
go on, go on, go on.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I
so
really
yeah,
want to hear about that, your first line. Like, what is it in your first line that
okay. So
makes...
the magic, the magic in the first line, obviously, is you start an email by introducing yourself. Okay, my name is Tega. I'm a lecturer or I'm a PhD student. I'm both, by the way. Um, but the magic in the first line is you have those 8 seconds to establish a connection with
Yeah.
this person. In fact, in my opinion, that connection is what keeps them going on. You know, so you need to establish that connection, and there are different ways to establish the connection. It could be based on maybe you guys went to the same school, or you have common friends, or where you got your contact from. But over time, I've realized that the best connection that has worked for me is a professional interest. Okay.
That's it.
Yes. So it's a professional interest.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys have the same research field, or you read their article,
Yeah.
or if it's in business, you guys are in the same business, or they have a model that you really admire. Well, I'm not saying to give them a compliment in that sense, but just the fact that you guys share interest in that one thing is
Yeah.
definitely going to be like, okay, it shows that, okay, this person actually knows me. And that's the connection that I've been trying to talk about the whole time. And the moment you're able to do that, it shows that it's not a generic email.
Yeah.
Okay. It shows that, okay, this person has done their due diligence. So in that first line, I always try to establish that mutual connection. So I'll have something like, my name is Tega. I'm here just to introduce myself. And I'll say, I read your recent article that was published in this journal, blah, 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 and this is my opinion, or this is what I was thinking about it. And then I just proceed depending on what I want from the person. If I want them to, if I have an idea to present, or if I wanted to grab coffee or lunch to talk more about it. But I've already established that connection. So if you're in business, for instance, you can say, oh, I see that we're both in the small scale business, or we're both in this industry. And I was wondering, you just go on but just establish that initial connection and that initial contact. And that is also where, subsequently, so after that line, the next thing I go is to further personalize the email.
Okay.
And this is where stalking comes in, guys. I think that's one thing Miriam and I have in common. We stalk is like doing your due diligence, okay? And when I say stalk, I'm not saying just Google the person and read the Google page and say, oh, I have this information about you. No, I mean creating a theory of mind about the person, how they think, why they think that way, what they do, what experiences they've had. Know some of these things so that you better know how to create that email. Even the word that you use will come from just knowing more about the person and knowing more about it. So in the first slide, it's about creating that connection, and then the next stage is to further personalize it, and then ask for what you want. Be specific, be direct. Be very clear. I wanted to talk about X and Y, or your opinion on Y, or on X, or on that. Just be exact. Just say exactly what you want. But even as you say that, make it easy give them an easy option to respond to you. Don't just say, oh, I've attached my 500-page paper for you to give me your opinion on. So you won't get, I won't even read the paper. I'm like, what kind of book is this? It's just so much work. So be specific and provide that easy way, depending on what you want from them, for them to respond or give you feedback or even help you in the first place. Again, because my emails tend to be read in less than 60 seconds, this usually does it for me. And it has worked for most of the time. It has worked for me. So overall, just make sure your subject line is spot on. Make sure you make a connection in the first few sentences, few words. Further personalize it, and then be specific about what you want from them. And
that's like, that is basically the golden, the golden ticket, the golden rule. But I'm just gonna add a few things to that. And Tiger has gone step by step, but I want you to think on a broader scale about what you're sending. Do you sound like someone that the person reading your email will want to invest in. That is really it. Because the time they're going to use to respond to your email is an investment, right? So the overall objective is to portray yourself as somebody that the recipient of your email can bet on, can invest in. That, okay, you know what? I don't have the time, but I'm going to take out 15 minutes to help this person along in life, right? Or create a connection that perhaps we can explore later on. But if you don't come across as somebody who has made the necessary investment so that someone else can invest in you, you may not get a response. So that also feeds back into all the things we said you shouldn't do. Those are the things that make you look like someone who has not made the necessary investment in themselves. Now, the second thing that you need to do in your email as well is show that you are considerate and show that you are flexible, right? So appreciate their time that they've used to, read this email. If you're asking for a meeting or for a call, emphasize that I understand that you're busy. I understand your schedule must be very tight, which is why I'm available to discuss, I'm available to work around your schedule if you are able to make it clear that you understand how valuable their time is. Another thing that you should do is always bring value to the table. For me, there are two things that work magic. One, what Tega has said about a professional connection. I would not email you just because I saw your profile on LinkedIn. I won't connect with you because of that. I will connect with you because I have read something you've done. I've seen a report that you contributed to, that you were involved in. I'm like, oh, okay. Recently I sent a LinkedIn connection to a professor. I haven't even messaged him yet because, to be honest, cold emailing and doing it well takes a lot of time and effort. But how did I find this person? I was reading a report and they were appreciating the people who contributed to the report. These are stalking skills. They were appreciating the people who contributed to the report, and I Googled them one by one. I found out that one of the professors is here in Canada. He's done a lot of work with Africa and he's somebody that I should know. I sent him a LinkedIn connection as accepted. If I'm going to email him, I'm going to say, dear Professor so and so, this is who I am. I'm emailing you because I saw that you contributed to the Assessing Regional Integration in Africa report 2018. My research, looks into that, and I'm wondering, I'm interested in finding out practically what goes on when this report is being put together, something like that. I'm coming to Ottawa, in a few weeks, or I'm happy to chat on the phone. This is specifically what I'm looking at, whatever. But the point is, you've established a connection. You've acknowledged that they're experts in their field, whether or not we want to admit it. People do like a certain level of flattery, and to see that you've done research, like. So don't flatter and say, oh, I read an article. Oh, so beautiful, wonderful, so inspiring, so deep. Yeah. That's generic. So you can say, yes, I found this interesting, then go into the specifics. Interact with their intellects even before they meet you. Interact with their work. So I would say something like, oh, on this point, I found this particular point interesting, but I would have thought that, this is another example you would use because in my experience, so and so. Or, in addition to this, in addition to the 2 points that you've raised about why integration in Africa is slow, I've also found out that so and so. So you can, before they even meet you, you can set the tone for the kind of intellectual metal that you are made of. So, as Tega said, professional connection works the most because you're coming to them as colleagues, right? And the other thing I was talking about adding value. Always offer something. I don't think I will send an email without offering something. And you know what? Most times they may not even take you up on the offer because they just want to. You're just trying to show that you're available to help and you appreciate what they're doing, and you're also ready to invest in them. It's not it's a two-way street. To maintain a
Yes.
relationship, you cannot expect them to pour into you and you're not pouring back into them or offering to pour back into them. So ask them, if you're interested in research, I'm very always available to conduct research remotely. You can see a sample of some of the work that I've done, or done remote research with so 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 and so, or I'm happy to proofread and edit any, whatever. If you're not just generic, hello, I'm here for research. No, but in relation to what you're doing, or you can say, from time to time, I find a lot of, novel, articles or whatever on so 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 and so topic. If it's okay by you, I can send you a list of the 4 articles that I found the most engaging in this subject. Perhaps we can have a discussion about it later. But you need to give them something. I'm not gonna lie. If you offer me something, I'm not likely going to respond to you just because that is how. I mean, a lot of emails too, I respond to without being offered anything. But the fact that somebody is thinking about helping you, recognizing that you also, might need some support, even as they're asking, it's also a winner. And just to emphasize something that Tega said, don't overburden them. So I look back at a cold email that I sent like 4 years ago. Oh my goodness. I'm just like, I was asking for a lot. I was basically asking you to help me figure out my PhD and my whole life, pretty much. And that was too much. I shouldn't have asked for that much. Oh, this is my potential topic. What do you think about it? How can I get funding? What is happening? What's the weather today? Tell me about your, like, it was just too much. So don't overburden. Overall, don't ask for more than one thing, or just open a connection, and then asking can come later, right? That's one of the things I also do. I don't necessarily ask. I can just say, I just want to build a connection. But I know that you work with a particular organization that it might be useful to know someone in there, So you might not be useful for me today, but you might be useful for me tomorrow. And you might be useful for somebody in my network. That's even the most important thing. Like, you might not be the one to use that connection in the end. It might be somebody else, and that is okay. And finally, whenever you conclude your email, always have a call to action, because you've introduced yourself, you've said all of that. What should I do about it? What should the recipient do about it? Give a call to action. Like, I'd like us to have coffee. I want to, if you have anything that you can send to me on so and so topic, whatever you'd like us to have a chat. Can we have a chat? A call to action, something that they can say, okay, yes, okay, no, I can't at this time. You understand? And if they say no, you can, and they say you should reach out again, reach out again. Okay, so Tega, I think that's basically it. And the practical class would really, really bring this to life. But I want to, we're talking about cold emailing people. Where do we even find these people? How are we find people that are going to help our lives? Sorry, I'm a bit dramatic, but I have to.
Okay, so where do we even find people? I mean, generally, I'll say stalking. But before we go into the skill of stalking, I would like to talk about something that is really important to me. And you just kind of touched on it just now, and I thought it would be good to mention it. A lot of the times when we're trying to establish networks or contacts or connections, the first thing we do is to look at the people at the top.
Yes.
And professors and people working in World Bank and the United Nations and World Trade. And it's amazing to have this connection. But sometimes, actually, starting from your peers and your levels, you'll be amazed at the connections that those people actually have.
Yeah.
And that is what brings us to that point of the mutual connections I was talking about when you send emails. Because then you say, oh, this is where I got your contact. I see you're also friends with Miriam, or you and Miriam went to school. Well, Miriam and I are working currently on this project, or we've worked on this project in the past, and I think we can, have an intersection here, and something value. So always start from. I mean, it's okay, but don't overlook. Okay, let me put it that way. Your friends and who they know. So that's one place to always get networks from people to send email to. Alumni networks, people that went to school with you. I remember when I was in final year and I needed to get an internship. I was in Kenya, anybody, no father, no mother, no connect. Just it was someone who had graduated before that actually gave me the connections I needed to start the process. So that is one place I'll say is good to connect with. LinkedIn is like the professional Instagram. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, like I really don't know what you're
LinkedIn that
doing.
is popping, by the way.
It is. I need to really up my LinkedIn game, but
Yeah.
seriously, LinkedIn is one place to get to find people and connect with them professionally. Like if I get an email on LinkedIn, I automatically assume that it's a professional email.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then stalking, which is the other way. When you read reports, when you read reports, Google search people in your field. Like there's a particular professor in my field. He's like prof of professors, and I read his papers and I loved them so much. So I started just doing like quick Google search, and I found other people that are related in terms of rank, and so it wasn't just about him; it was about the tree of people that build up to him. And
Absolutely.
so sometimes searching one person leads you to so many other related people.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, I should have known this person, or how come I didn't know this person? And then you just start to read about them. So simple Google searches about people, even one person, can lead to more people. But don't just search superficially. Like obviously you have a pain point. That's why you're searching, right? Either somebody to work with or someone to help you with something. So yes, always, put your search in that nest of people. What else? Do you have anything else to add? But basically it's always been that way for me. Um, Professional networks and alumni. Um,
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. It's just a question of how deep are you willing to go with your search. So when you find people, um, don't just look at them. Look at us. Check us. Look at the people that whose names also come up when theirs come up. Also look at the organizations that they're affiliated with and what those organizations do, because a lot of those organizations might have conferences, seminars, they might have competitions. So you need to check out those organizations and see whether you can also gain value from that network. So it's really you're going to spend a lot of time finding people that um you think can help you. There's no solution. You will spend time. You will look at people's profiles. You will read. You will find an organization. It doesn't match what you're looking for. You move on. And one of the tips I'm going to give you is I have a document, because not everybody has time. You may not have the time. You might find someone, but you may not have the time to cold email them, or you might not be in the frame of mind to start that relationship. But I have a document where I keep people's names and where I found them. So I just have this Google Doc, Google Excel, what they call it, Excel sheet, where I just, once I click on the tab, because I've opened it so often, I just put in like the keywords, the document comes up. And once I find a name, I put the person's name, I put the website, and I say why I've written that person's name down. I'm like, oh, very good contact for this, knows about this issue, has worked with this person, has worked in this place, developed this theory, and I have it there. I haven't contacted anybody on that list, but I'm not trusting my memory to remember those names when the need arises. The same thing I also do for opportunities. So if I'm online and I find an opportunity, I mean, this is off the point, but if you find an opportunity, I have a master document now. I don't have a lot because I just started it a few months ago. I just have like maybe 9 or 10 of opportunities. Even if they're not open yet, I know there's a conference happening in December at maybe the World Bank or wherever. I just plug it in and I put a note, check back in June, check in July. Or if the conference has closed or the opportunity has closed, I can say closed in June, check, like March 2020. So these are just a few tips to help you as you're navigating your professional space. And when you're looking at something that is coming up ahead, you have time to prepare, So that's by the side. You guys are going to have to pay for that tip. So, so let's go into Okay, so Bam Shakwa said, how do you draft an email to your new professor, one uh that wins you a research assistant profession? Do maybe how do you build connection with the recruiter when we both know I'm only interested in a job? I like that. Okay. I don't. Laulu says, "Do you go anonymous when stalking on LinkedIn?" You know what? Let us ask. Let us come back to these questions because they're so interesting. But let's do the practical class first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sharing my screen, and you guys will see the essays, and we're going to read through, and then I'd like to you can chat based on the discussions that we've had. You can type what you feel the issues are. So let me just share my screen with you guys. Oh, okay. Choose what you'd like. All right. Share. Right. So you can see my screen. Ah, no. Okay. So you can see my screen and this document here, right? Let us see. Okay. So I want to keep track of your questions as well. So I'm just going to leave this here. So you can let me know. I think most Tega, can you see the documents? Can you read the text? Is it legible? Hi Tega, are you there? Can you see the text? Can you see the document, the Word document? Okay, I can't hear you, Tega. I don't know if you are speaking. I know you're speaking, but I can't hear you, which is strange. No, Tega, your audio is off, at least from my end. Okay, we should increase the font size. All right. Tega, for some reason, I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear Tega? Which is very strange. Can you guys let me know if you can hear Tega? Okay, but can you hear Miriam? Okay, so maybe you can probably go out of the room and then come back in and see. I'm not sure what has gone wrong. But we're here. We're going to be waiting. Okay, so I'm going to increase the font size of the documents just as you've requested. I hope Tega can join us again. Okay, so while we're waiting for the tech issues to be resolved, so Tega, I think you can just close the window and then join again, and let's see if that works out. Right. So so this email is it basically addresses Tega's point about jargon and trying to speak big English. And I want you guys to also let me know what you think is wrong with the email. So let me know what you think is wrong with the email. I'm gonna just put it out there and say you should do that. So you can please talk to me. I want this to be very interactive. What is wrong with this email? So hopefully you can read it, and I'm going to read it out as well. It says, hello, David. I am in the identity of Kola Ahmed Chika. and undergraduate law students in Nigeria. I have always had passion to take a further study into the area of health, medicine, and technology. I happen to visit. Hi, Tiger. Oh, I'm not sure why we're having these issues. I'm so sorry, guys. Hi, Tiger.
Hi, Miriam. I can hear you.
You are
Can
back.
you hear me?
Yes, you are back. So
Okay.
awesome. So let us. We're just starting to read the first email. And I said this email basically addresses the issue of jargon, right? So a lot of these emails are emails that have been gotten the permission to share from the people who wrote them, right? And some are like fake emails. It depends, but these are not far from the truth. Okay, so this says, "Hello, David. I'm in the identity of Kola Ahmed Chika, an undergraduate law student in Nigeria. I've always had passion to take a further study into the area of health, medicine, and technology. I happened to visit the University of Toronto's website to inquire into a possible LLM with concentration in the said areas. Curiously, I delved into the SJD program and the current students who were enrolling in the course. Your thesis topic really caught my eye, so I went further to read what it was about and what you seek to achieve. I also read most of your articles, especially the one on the East-Outs distinction. I feel so inspired and pushed to do more. Thanks for the inspiration. Hope to hear from you soon." So I'm just gonna raise 2 points first, and then hand over to Tega for her to critique this email. The first thing is, I can tell and I'm going to also show you what my response to this email was. So the first thing is, you can tell that this person is at least trying to level up and trying to make connections, right, to help them. So that is a fantastic thing. But I can't. One of the things that is obvious here is there's such a desire to impress that the person is deliberately using language that it ends up somewhat being confusing, right? So if the great Chimamanda Adichie says, "If you can go, why do you have to proceed?" Basically saying, keep it short and sweet. Keep the language simple. So you can obviously see that this is not very easy to read, and it's not particularly grammatically correct. Then the other thing that is obvious is there's no call to action.
Yes.
There's nothing. So what do you want to do? I want to hear from you soon, and to say what? Another thing is, it's also it's like praise without concrete interaction. Like, "Oh, I'm inspired. I love it. Wonderful." But what does that really do? Tega, let me over to you. Do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I think you've said a lot of them actually, in terms of the call to action and the grammar and the jargon and everything. It was really difficult to understand, really. It was really difficult to understand.
Yeah.
But for me also, he wasn't really the writer. I'm assuming he is a guy. The writer wasn't really, it didn't give you an easy way to respond to this email.
Yeah.
I think that's where we talk about the call to action as well. But even if you wanted to ignore all of the lack of the call to action, because in as much as we're saying, "Oh, always have a call to action," being someone who is in the position means you get this kind of emails a lot. And sometimes you might understand, okay?
Yeah.
And even if you wanted to ignore the fact that there was no call to action and you wanted to respond to the email, it was hard. It's really hard. So what exactly are you responding to?
Yeah.
Because I do get emails sometimes and I can easily flag the challenges or the downsides of the email and I want to respond, but then what? And that was definitely lacking in this email. There's nothing to respond to other than, "Oh, thank you for the praises."
Yeah. Which was pretty much the response that this person got, actually. That was pretty much it. Like, "Thank you for your praises," really. So Toyosi says, "Better to use dear Mr. whoever." Absolutely. Like, don't be hell. You don't know. It's better to be formal until they say, "No, call me David." right? So that said, dear Mr. Newman, if his name is David Newman, as opposed to hello, it's better. You can't be too formal until they tell you it's okay to be informal. Keep it formal.
Yeah, in addition to that as well, being in the field that I'm in, it's important to take cultural differences, especially when you're emailing people from different countries, into consideration. Okay, some things might be considered aggressive, or like some countries really like the hi, I hope this email meets you well, and it's okay. And in some other cultures in different countries is more about going straight to the point. My name is Tega, this. Just go right in. So it's important to also know these things and the cultural context of the person that you're contacting, and it'll just help you sound better.
But
as well.
I think it's in all of that though. If you're ever in doubt, just lean towards what is safer, as opposed to exploring. So if you're ever in doubt, dear Mr. Whoever, or dear, if you're like, dear John, this professor is 70. Yes, probably. Even it took a while for me to refer to my professors as dear Michael, dear whoever. I'm like, dear professor. That's what I did for like a year before I was like, okay, maybe I need to relax a little bit. But maybe as a Yoruba girl, they say we have too much respect. Maybe that was the issue. But
our culture, also the way that we've been raised, and the way our culture is designed.
But anyway, that's an aside. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm just going to show you what the email was. So what happened was this person pretty much contacted a colleague, and just by a random chat, the colleague said, oh, I got an email from somebody from this particular country. I've changed a couple of things in here. And I was like, oh, really? He was like, I don't really know how to respond to the email. I was like, you know what? Forward it to me. Let me help this person who is trying to help themselves. So I did an email, and I told them that I understand how difficult it is for them to pursue a master's abroad, and I'm impressed that they contacted my colleague. And I told them about Getting. I also told them that we were having a focus on law month, and they might benefit from it. So I said that what I also told the person was that they've reached out to David, but they haven't demonstrated proficiency in his area. And you haven't asked for anything specific apart from an introduction and what he seeks to achieve through his research. I said, considering that he hasn't met you before, it's unlikely that he will take the time to explain his research, seeing as you also haven't displayed much knowledge of the area, right? For example, if you had referred to a famous paper in his field that you have read, or if you had explained that you've done some work in this field, he might know specific resources to send to you. Or if you had attached a fantastic paper you worked on, or explained that you are on a first-class degree and are seeking specific information in this field, you could have also asked him for some articles or suggested readings. That's a call to action, right? After showing that you've done enough research. I said, in reaching out to people as you prepare for your LLM, remember to be prepared so you will get more favorable responses. I only got to know about you through a friendly chat with David, who is an incredible person. And I said, also try to speak as simply as possible. Instead of, I would love to stay in touch and get more insight to some teasing issues. Okay, so this person responded to me and sent this to me and said, I would love to stay in touch and get more insight to some teasing issues that may confront me as I take a giant step towards pursuing this area. I am most grateful for the African gem you have directed me to. Okay, send this to David, who sent this to me. I said, you may simply say, I will definitely keep in touch with you if you don't mind, to David. And I'm also thankful for the introduction to Miriam. Like, there's no need for this, right? So you can also see that in addition to the other point we've raised, there's really no professional connection. You are saying you have interest in a particular area, they should come and teach you, essentially. Like, I have interest in this area, right? Health medicine and technology, and this your topic taught me. I went to read about it and what you seek to achieve. Okay, come and tell me about your research. Pretty much. Why should they? You haven't shown that you know anything about this area. You haven't shown that you've gone deep. You haven't shown depth. Why should they spend 30 minutes of their time?
Can I add something?
Yes, you can.
The truth of the matter is, I've had this conversation with a few people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think because people tend to go for the broad field but they're actually trying to be specific, okay? Mm-hmm. So I always tell people to try it's like an onion, okay? It's big, peel out all the scale, all the sections until you get to the really tiny middle part in the middle, and then talk about that part. So find, yes, this is a broad topic and you're interested in that topic, but you need to pick something that you can connect with, that one little tiny thing about it that you know is also something that the person is interested in as well. So don't just say because this person studied law and I studied law, oh yeah, well now
we're connected. And I think that this person tried with this, trying to specify here, but it didn't really go any further, because it would have said, okay, there is odd distinction, so and so, I've also, had cause to engage in blah, 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 and, use this theory or whatever, but it just falls a bit flat. So that's an example of an email that you probably shouldn't send. Now, this is another email. It says, my name is Grace Esther. I recently completed my LLM in tax. Sorry, this is, when you're editing this thing, you make errors. In tax at NYU. We met briefly after your speech at the tax conference on the 27th of May. As I said, it was quite refreshing to meet someone like you with such a unique perspective on how people should be, particularly in the legal profession. As a young professional, one very important thing that I look out for is a work environment that promotes teamwork, diversity, and inclusion, and the practice of law in a sustainable way. Meeting someone like you who shares this perspective is quite encouraging. I'm drawn to Crowther and Dane, that's the law firm, because I believe that with you as the managing partner, the work environment will support every individual and the team as a whole in attaining the highest potential. I know you're very busy, and I will appreciate it if you can spare some time to chat over coffee, as I'd like to know more about the firm's culture and practice area. I look forward to hearing from you. So, what are your thoughts about this, guys, and Tega as well?
Okay, I mean, they had a specific call to action at the end, which is, but the problem with this email is, will I get to the end of this email?
You don't think this is too long?
I thought it was.
I mean, then you're gonna really critique my emails because they're long.
If it's long and you're saying unique things, like I said, each line should make me want to read the next one. If I read the first two lines, then it seems like a repetition of, and then just repeating, because it's just like, it's a good email. I have to say, it's not a bad email at all. I just wish it was shorter, and like a few of the sentences there the email could have done without them, without actually, stopping the message she was trying to send. Overall, it checks a lot of the boxes. I just wish it was shorter and not very repetitive, like saying the same thing. Just at the middle of it. Yeah.
And I also think, yes. So Chelsea says that you can read about the firm's culture and practice areas online, to be honest. So it would have been better to say maybe, you're interested in this particular practice area and you would like to learn more about the firm's, work in that area, perhaps, or, the firm's taxation practice, or a particular transaction that you used for your research. Like, the more connected it is, the better for you. The more you can, this is something I wanted to say. The more you can show that it is only that person that can answer your question, the more likely you are to get a response. That is it. You need to make it seem like you are the only one on this earth that is best suited to give me this information I need. Honestly, that is it. So, like, and for instance, I also felt like the professional connection wasn't there enough. So I would have appreciated if they said something like, oh, I read this, your presentation, this particular point stood out. I did further research and I found out that, is this something you would like to discuss over coffee? Or I'm planning on using this in my thesis, even if you're just going to use a little part of it, I'm planning to use this in my thesis, whatever. But make them feel like they're the only ones who can actually help you. Like, from this, I can feel like you've sent this to any other person and just edited the end, right? So it's not a bad email. I'm trying to take us, we're progressing steadily. So it's not a bad email, but it just didn't hit the sweet spot. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, another email, not like, oh, interesting, what a candidate, or what a person.
What is missing here is also her perspective on
Yes.
that your said perspective is, or what her work is, or what her direct interest
Yes.
is, and that is what really establishes that
There's
connection.
no,
It's not
yes.
about saying, I want that or I've done that. It's also showing that you are committed to that
Yeah.
particular, and that can be shown in the work that you are planning to do or that you've done.
Yes.
Or so you have to show that, you have to convey that. And I think it just comes from being genuine. But even if you're genuine, it's easy to miss it because you just, write and go. So it always pays to take a step back and make sure that you're making that connection. I think what you're saying the word connection a lot because it's very important.
Yeah.
I would say it's the thing that would actually guarantee a response. Trust
Yeah.
me, no matter how busy somebody is, if that connection is there properly, you will be on their mind until they respond to you.
Yeah, I think so. It's just what I part of what we discussed before about you are intellectually stimulating them before they meet you. So if you're not getting them to think, or be interested from your email, like what are we talking about? So now let's move on to another email. Don't you guys like this practical class? We need some feedback. It's not okay, I'm gonna plug in a little bit of a sales pitch in here because I think we deserve to. This is what Getting does. Like, we're not gonna send you a template. Nobody should even ask for a template because a template damages you. Let me tell you why. Because it's rote learning, sort of. You just need to, you think once you remove this, you plug this, you underscore this, you divide this, that's a formula. It's not true. If you have a template, number one, there's a tendency that so many other people will be using that exact same template. Imagine if Professor Crispin gets 10 emails from Nigeria that look almost identical. You guys, if by sending you a template, I'm not helping you, right? So number two, you're not going to apply these learnings in a way that fits your purpose. So what we're teaching you is a principle. And as I said, you're going to use all these principles, not just for cold emailing people today, like in the future, you can apply it, you can teach people, you can help people. But if I just give you a template and say, here you are, cold email for supervisor, here you are, cold email for job, here you are, cold email, it doesn't help. So we want you guys to learn the principles. It's harder, but once you understand it, you're good to go forever. So, and the sales pitch is that we're having a boot camp at the end of July. And this is one of the things we touch on. We do the same thing for CVs. We do this for personal statements. So it's not just, don't let your personal statement be like this. We will sit down and analyze so that when you're done with your statement, you yourself would know that you've done a good job. Moving on, I'll keep another sales pitch to the end. So practical class is I'm all about that. So introduction of Abayomi Zainab. So this is what Tega talked about. You can say your topic can be trying to connect interest in oil and gas in whatever, a particular thing. So this is something that I this is probably like an approach that I would take, like introduction of whoever. I put my name in the subject so that it's easy for them to find me in the future, for instance, or find my emails, as just to make it easy. So, what's that person's name? Or shareholders protection or LLM applicants, like things that they can search for in their email boxes. I try to put it in my subject. So, introduction of this person, LLM applicant with focus on minority shareholders protection. So I'm not saying this is a good email, by the way. So, because this is still edited. So, dear Professor Crispin, my name is Abayomi Zainab, a Nigerian lawyer with specialty in corporate and commercial law. I'm applying for the LLM thesis-based program at the University of Calgary, which is to commence in September 2018. I had requested to be placed under your supervision, and I understand that my application will be forwarded for your review. With your vast years of experience as an attorney in Daniels, Walsh and Morin LLP, which is remarkably the center of business in Canada, I believe if I'm placed under your supervision, my research will benefit from your practical as well as theoretical experiences. Consequently, my recommendations to my home country will take into consideration the practical implementation of the proposed legal provisions. My experience as a corporate and commercial lawyer in Nigeria has given me deep insight on how a well-structured legal system can affect economic growth. I am very passionate about this cause because I hold the view that part of the corporate legal system to an extent impairs the growth of the Nigerian economy. I hope that my research will study the Canadian corporate law in relation to minority shareholders and discover how its laws have evolved to adequately protect minority shareholders who may be equity investors. In view of the above, this will encourage investments as minority shareholders who are investors will be more willing to invest in economies where their status as minority shareholders will get treated. It is my hope that this research will contribute to the ongoing revamp of the protection of minority interests, as the Nigerian Senate recently passed a bill to amend the Companies and Allied Matters Act. This one is not the person's fault. Allied Matters Act to encourage investment and make the business environment more competitive on a global scale. Look forward to a favorable response. Kind regards, Abayomi Zainab. All right, comments from the house.
What is he responding to? What is the professor responding to?
Because
all I can remember is I hope.
Yeah.
I hope, and more hopes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the good things in this email.
Yes.
Anything good about this email? First of all.
Absolutely. I would say I like the subject line.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to read it, like LLM applicant will focus on minority shareholders protection. I think that already, if that was something that I was interested in,
yeah.
I would definitely open the email.
Mm-hmm.
On minority shareholders protection. I really don't know much about the length of a subject, but I think this is okay. For me personally, I would want to open it if I'm interested in minority shareholders protection. So she really wrote there.
Yeah.
The
house is saying that the introduction was good, and it's obvious that she's done a bit of research. She said, Dumebi says, I think it started off well, but it was too long. Omalayo says, the beginning is good. She did very good research. It became too long. I will surely lose the reader. Nkem says, a bit too long. Sounds generic. To be honest, I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Even though there's research, there's still a lot of, for example, let me talk about, with your vast years of experience as an attorney in this, which is the center of business. Okay, so how does that's not deep. Like, I believe
it just reminds me of what I said earlier about just the first Google search and picking information and then writing it down.
Okay, this person is an attorney here. Put it. That's not enough. Maybe this sentence maybe is even from their website, the Center of Business in Canada, probably. I believe if my research will benefit from a practical as well as theoretical experiences. Which one? Which practical and theoretical experiences? Consequently, my recommendations to my home country. When did you even talk about those before?
Where did that one come from?
You understand? So it's just, there's a lot, but I think we need to always be careful about structure. So now I'm going to take you guys into what this essay looks like. And I'm going to put it as an aside that a lot of times, I think when you're emailing people for things like supervision, that it is not possible for your email not to be a bit long. A little. It's that you have two options. If you attach a research proposal and then your CV, but I think you can perhaps get away with a bit of a longer email because you're addressing something that is in that person's area. Right? So I can do like 3-4 paragraphs for that, but the email needs to be on point, right? And that's for any, supervisory email needs to be on point because sometimes you might need to discuss some technical issues, show your proficiency. But if it is a hello, nice to meet you, I don't know you before, cool, we should connect, perhaps not so long, right? 2-3 short paragraphs should be fine, right? But if it is more of like a professional thing, because you would need at least one solid paragraph where you show your competence, you might end up with a bit of a longer email. Right? Tega, what do you think? Because I like long emails.
Again, it depends on what you're asking for, okay? Yeah. I'm not really against, like you said, there's a length that is acceptable for what you're asking for. But what is very important, I believe, is how each sentence links to the other so that lose the reader. It just has to make sense. I've read long emails and I'm like, oh, that email was long, and I didn't even notice it was long because it just caught me. Every word was said properly, the sentences were well structured in the right place, and I just wanted to read it. So in as much as we advise that you should keep it as short as possible, if it's what you're asking for requires that you show proficiency, like you're saying,
Yeah.
as long as it is properly structured and you don't lose the reader, then I don't see anything wrong with that.
So let us go to this same email, but revamped to the different way. So introduction of this person. Dear Professor Crispin, by way of introduction, my name is, which is not even necessary, by the way. My name is Abayomi Zainab, a Nigerian lawyer with experience in corporate and commercial law. I'm sorry, this should not be seeing these errors. I'm applying for the thesis-based LLM program, September 2018 admission at the University of Calgary. I understand that my application will be forwarded for your review. In light of this, I thought to provide more information about myself and why I hope to work with you. While working as a corporate and commercial lawyer in Nigeria, I noticed some inadequacies in Nigerian corporate and commercial law, particularly in the area of minority shareholders protection. I'm passionate about this area of study because I'm of the view that the Nigerian economy has underperformed, partly due to inadequate protection for minority shareholders. Investors, some of whom may be minority shareholders, will be more willing to invest in economies where their status as minority shareholders will be adequately protected. The Nigerian legal landscape does not offer such attractive protection. Therefore, I am keen to investigate how this situation can change. I intend to conduct a comparative study of minority shareholders protection under Nigerian and Canadian law. I also intend to investigate minority shareholders protection under Kazakhstan's corporate law in view of its World Bank 2018 Doing Business ranking, where it stands as first position. The Canadian dimension gives me the developed country perspective to minority protection, while the Kazakhstan dimension provides a successful developing country perspective. Further, my research will identify the extent to which the legal provisions of Canadian and Nigerian minority shareholders laws resolve the problems that arise from the theory of corporate democracy and majority rule. It will also explore empirical evidence linking protection of minority shareholders to increased investment. With your experience teaching corporate law, I believe I will be under excellent supervision and hope to tap into your knowledge on the nuances of minority protection in Canada. I have practical experience in Nigeria, and I'll be happy to hear your thoughts on some ideas for reform that I'm considering. I also recently read a paper on asset sales and secured creditor in restructuring, which compared the UK, US, and Canadian models. The style of your comparative approach was very engaging, and it will be a privilege for my comparative exercise to be supervised by you. If you have any comments or questions, I am available by email and happy to respond. I look forward to attending University of Calgary and working under your supervision. So this is basically the same email, but some changes have been made, right? So what do you guys think? Tiger, what are your thoughts? It's still long, but what are your thoughts?
It's very, very long, I think. And it's well written, obviously. If the reader chooses to continue reading, obviously they will be impressed with it. But again, like I said, it's just about, because this is somebody that you haven't really met. I saw someone here saying I always start off with a short email and then give the details later. But it's also a matter of first impressions, right? And this is somebody, but I honestly doubt that a professor will read this email to the end.
So go on.
Even though it's well written, like it is it's well written.
Yeah.
Do with removing a few of the sentences.
Yeah. So this email, I'm going to give you guys some context, right? So this email, for a first email to someone, perhaps not this long, you might just want to really like hit the nail on the head. But this email, this person was literally fighting for their life because they were in the pool to be selected and their application had been sent to this professor. So the idea of this email was to convince the professor that they had the technical skills. You understand what I'm saying? To actually do this program. Now, what happened after this email is long. What happened after this email was that the next day, this person got offered a fully funded position. And they didn't get a response from the professor, but the professor read their email and the next day they got admission. Like in Yoruba, you say the bird shouted to don't let me give a Yoruba proverb on this because people may not understand. But the idea is that, let me say the things that were good about these emails and the things that were bad. Wordy introduction at some point, but here is one thing that is good. I thought to provide more information about myself and why I hope to work with you. It is clear. Like, this is, you've said, this is why I'm emailing you, right? So if you're applying, you're meeting somebody for the first time, you can say, I am emailing you because I'm applying, I intend to apply to this program and hope to be placed under your supervision. Here is my proposed research, and I look forward to hearing from you, or whatever, see if you're accepting any students. I'm happy to have a chat about my whatever. And that's the end. It doesn't have to be this long. So you have your introduction, you have the core. So this is more like a personal statement and, research interest, which is not necessary so much if you're just trying to get a supervisor, right? So you just need to talk about so all this, my history may not be necessary. You just go straight into how the Nigerian legal landscape does not provide, a certain protection that the Canadian one does, right? And that's what you're investigating. Another thing I think stood out in this email was two things. Obviously, this going into Kazakhstan and talking about how they're the first in the World Bank doing business ranking shows that you've done research. And then you've also shown that you've thought about your research. So the Canadian dimension gives me a developed country perspective. The Kazakhstan direction gives me a developing country perspective. You're showing that you didn't just pick your case studies randomly, even if you did, And the last thing that I think was also quite good about this email was this part about the professor having something that they can give you. And for those of you who are applying for PhDs or masters, and you're not 100% sure your professor would know, might know about your area, but not in relation to maybe your focus. So maybe you're looking at Nigerian companies, for instance, and your professor knows nothing about Nigerian companies. Your potential professor knows nothing about Nigerian companies. You need to tie in a theory or an idea that they definitely have competence in, that even if they don't know anything about Nigerian companies, their knowledge on that thing, can help them improve or help them, work with you as a supervisor. I don't know if that makes sense, Tega. So what she has shown is, even if you don't, know much about Nigeria, well, you know about Canada and you know about comparative research, which you can help me with, because I really liked how you did yours, and you can also, something like that. So it's just the idea of personalization as much as possible. This is probably excessive personalization, but hey, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah. So, Miriam, like you said, you've given us like the context about it, and I really agree. Like, so this person was probably, it wasn't, I won't call it, it's called emailing, but it's not out of the blue.
This wasn't out of the blue.
Yes. So I can see how this will pass. Because if I were expected, or I had a bunch of students on my table, I had to make a decision on which one to choose. And one of them sent me an email, I'll actually read it to the end. At least if it's impressive, if the writing, I'll most likely read it to the end. So yes, it's important. And the situation surrounding that, sending that
warm. This is like warm email. Yeah. So I guess for a cold email, too long, but this is why we're teaching you what to do. Like, you can customize, if you're looking for a research assistantship, for instance, right? If you're already in the school, you can say, I attend this particular class. You had this point. Are you, that you mentioned that you're doing this research? Are you accepting, RAs, whatever, or you go for it and bump into them and you go well structured in terms of what you want to say. So you can customize and use according to, what you would like. So this is an email that I have sent, an email that I sent. As I said, I sent long emails, but I got a response. So I had connected with somebody on LinkedIn, right? I connected with someone on LinkedIn, and I'd read an article that she wrote, and I sent her an email. Accepted my request, and then I sent her an email after, and always know that there's a potential that you will not get a response. Like, it's not personal. It's really not personal. You may not get a response, So I sent her, and she's a Nigerian, so may I use dear madam because I don't want wahala. Thank you for accepting my request. I just read your article so and so on this particular website, and I found it interesting. That's the generic, hello, nice article, Then I went, 2 points stood out for me in the article. First, your doubts about how the African Continental Free Trade Agreement will be implemented, enforced, and monitored in light of poor regional coordination in Africa. And second, the potential negotiating power which this will confer on Africa if the agreement is successfully implemented. Bear in mind, I'm talking to somebody who is a subject matter expert, so I can afford to sound technical, if that makes any sense, as opposed to like a general email. So I then told her who I was and what I was doing, and why I agreed with her, right? So I told her that I'm pursuing a PhD. My thesis explores this. My premise is that current state-centric integration efforts, This is someone who is very academic. I've read her article, so I understand that she would relate to what I'm saying, right? So this is not the first time African leaders are proposing grand continental schemes, yet the continent still trades on the fringes of the global economy. And then I go into this. I said, I'm hoping my thesis can provide insights into how integration can be driven continuously by other actors if states are complacent. And I said, one of the challenges I've faced while undertaking this research has been limited contact with experts in trade who have on-the-ground experience. So this, I'm not reading this because you guys will get bored, but these 2 paragraphs were basically proposing a solution to the problems that she identified in her article. And that's why I could go in this much, right? Like you said this, these are the solutions, and this is what I am doing. If you want us to, I'm approaching this person as a colleague, in my opinion, not as, even though they're much older than me, I'm approaching them as a professional colleague. So I went in as well, like the last person, to kind of show you, like, this is my technical strength, this is my competence, right? And I can engage with you on this issue directly. So I told her that, one of the challenges that I'm having is contact with people who are on the ground. I said I was immediately drawn to your profile, and although you do not know me, she doesn't know me, I am hoping that by contacting you, I can lay the foundation for a professional relationship. Thank you for accepting my request. I'll be happy to hear your thoughts on my thesis, and I look forward to opportunities to collaborate with you in the future. So I didn't really ask for much. I just asked for our opinion on what I thought was the solution, and, just to build a relationship. This person responded to me and proposed that we should have a chat. We've had 2 different phone calls. The last time, like a month ago, I wrote an article. I sent it to her, like, hey, just checking up, this is an article I wrote, and she had this is somebody who's very busy, and she had like an hour and a half chat with me because she was interested in what I was bringing to the table, even though I didn't think it was a big deal. So it's about value. I know this person is in my network now because I've provided value to them, right? So it's about value and not being, what's it called, grandiose and verbose, but showing that you appreciate people's time, you have something you are offering, and yeah, pretty much. So comments, any more comments, any Tega comments? Yes, I know it can be shorter, but I don't do short emails.
The email, do you want us to comment on the email? I think the email was good. I
Yes,
really
sure.
think it's long, but it's good. Like you said, you were directly talking about her paper and the 2 points that, you wanted to. So I think it's very contextual, it's, yes. So what I would like everyone to take away from here today is you need to understand where you're coming from and what it is you want to talk about and what it is you want to ask for. Like this email, it was evident that the reason why you've actually emailed her is because of your genuine interest in that paper that she had written and the 2 points that resonated with you, right? So it's, again, like, it's very contextual in terms of, so you have to be genuine, you have to really have something. Something I wanted us to talk about. I don't know if I'm going to be leaving an area, but it's also if you're ready for like a positive response.
Yes.
Response. This is something that I'll be honest with you guys here, like, we're here learning. I've actually had a major positive response that I was not ready for. And when I think about it now, I'm actually genuinely pained because it was a perfect network. Like, that you have, you'll be like, oh my gosh. But the matter is, I think I sent that email because I was testing my cold emailing skills. I didn't expect the feedback to be instant and that fast. And before I knew it, we were booking a meeting. And this is, I'm talking with the Treasury of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand.
Wow.
And we were having a meeting, and I wasn't prepared in that, and to that extent that he wanted to have the conversation in. It was like a retrospective rejection. Like, she sent this email, it sounded good, but then I'm talking to her and I'm not getting what I wanted. So, but thankfully I knew how to mend it, and we're now, in good terms. But if you are you prepared before you hit that send? Are you prepared for a positive feedback? So if this person says, let's have a phone call, can you actually talk about this thing from different perspectives? From their perspective, can you actually engage them and actually, follow through with what all of these promises that you've made?
Absolutely. And which is why, for instance, I have my list of people that I'm going to contact in the future, because no energy to handle a positive response right now. So
exactly.
So let's quickly deal with the questions that have come. If you marked it as a queue, then I would see it. If not, you can ask your questions now. Ibukun says, after sending a cold email and didn't get a response, is it okay to send a follow-up email? Tiger, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. I think it's I don't know if it's I mean, you just have to. Follow-ups are, I call it a gentle nudge, because the thing is, a lot of times we're quick to assume the worst, like, oh, this person has read is not good. But being the person that I am and the schedule I have, sometimes I'm actually just at the moment of responding to someone and something happens, and then I leave it and go, and I just forget about it because maybe my reminder went off and I was just about to respond to it, and I didn't get to reset the reminder. So if you don't send me like a follow-up, that'll be it. It'll be gone. I really am an advocate for follow-up emails. If you send one, just a brief overview of, I sent this, introduce yourself again, and a brief overview of what you said in the previous email, and then just reiterate what you said in the email, and then just take it from there again and see. But please, I think 2 emails maximum.
So I was chatting with somebody, I don't know if she joined this class because I asked her to, who sent, I think, 3 emails in 4 days. Don't do that. Don't. If you send an email, wait a week or 2, and on the same mail trail, don't send a fresh email. Send it on top of the old mail. Say, this, I introduce yourself briefly. Like, if your other email was 3 paragraphs, this one should be 1. You're going to refer to the previous one. And if after 2 emails they don't respond, you can assume that they're probably not, right? So Bamshakwa says, how do you draft an email to your new professor, one that wins you a research assistant position? I think with all the tips that we've discussed, you should know what to do. Like, research assistant position, why you? What do you know about it? What is your competence? Don't go about using the big grammar. Just be simple, be clear, and also find out others who have done this research job with that professor and see whether they have any tips to give you. Dumebi says, how do you build connection with a recruiter when we both know I'm only interested in a job? I think there's nothing wrong with that, because the recruiters know you're interested in a job. You're interested in a job. Everybody's clear, right? All your job is to do is to stand out. And if there are people that you can meet for coffee, because having a personal connection is useful, if you can actually meet them in person, that helps. But I think if you follow these rules, and you can really sell yourself and show what makes you different from other candidates, then it's fine. Like, there's no need to kid around. I need a job. Laulu says, do you go anonymous while stalking on LinkedIn? I don't.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't.
Badijoko says, how about when you are cold emailing an organization? That's a good question. So will I call it cold email, or more like sending a proposal to an organization? And bear in mind that organizations consist of people. So do you want to target a person in that organization first to kind of build a connection before you send like a proposal? Because if you send a proposal or whatever, who's going to follow it up? I don't know. What do you think, Tega?
Yeah, I was already thinking like someone, maybe like a representative. That'll probably be the HR, or if it's a proposal, the head of whoever you're proposing to, the department you're proposing to. But your email will definitely go to somebody. You have to find out who that person is. It's part of the due diligence. It's part of the stalking. You have to know who that who is going to read email, or at least what department unit. Someone is definitely reading that email. You have to do your best to find out who that person is.
Yeah, don't just send your email in the air. And then Kelechi is says he has sent us notes, which is really fantastic, to be honest. So if you want to edit the notes that Kelechi has been making, you see, that's very, see, now I know Kelechi's name because he has added value. That's just it. So Chijoke says, how do you cold email a person for mentorship? I think this is pretty much the same thing. Like the last email that I sent, even though I used an article, like if you're cold emailing for mentorship, you still have to show how you're adding value. You have to show you're adding value.
Why are you choosing that person as a mentor?
Yeah, why you? Go on, Tega. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same. There are even lots of things that show on how to like choose a mentor as well. So I mean, there has to be a reason why you're choosing that person as a mentor. It could be, the research or the field, or something about them that you've read that resonated with you, that you're working on, or that you can, that you'd like to improve on. That personal connection, that connection that we've been talking about, that professional interest, that thing that makes the person believe I'm not wasting my time with this person, is just it. Find it and then show them why and what you're offering as well, what you want to learn, what exactly it is that, you're giving and wanting to take from them.
Okay, you guys should hold on because I have a special offer at the end of this webinar. But I just want to also add that sometimes just the point about rejection, people may not give you their time, or they may not be able to mentor you. For instance, I personally get some requests for mentorship, and most times I have to say no because I know that I don't have the capacity to give the level of support that is required. What I would say is, follow me here. If you have a specific question, I can answer, or join some of these sessions that we host and things like that. But a no does not mean it is a forever no. If the person says no for whatever, engage with them on LinkedIn, like their posts, keep that engagement ongoing. And before you know it, they actually you will start resonating in their minds. That has happened to me. The people were like, I want mentorship. I'm like, no, but somehow, I see them in my DM and we're chatting all the time because we've built a relationship somehow virtually. Use your online profiles well. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, even like use them well. Let your name resonate with these people according to the platform that is most appropriate, of course, because not all platforms are appropriate for certain things. So if anybody has any more questions, we can answer them. If not, it's been an hour and a half, which I do not even know how we've taken an hour and a half, but while we're waiting for your questions, please ask questions. You're not going to get the two of us in the same room. We've been planning this for a while. And like,
there's 3 time zones. So we're talking about it.
We should do something. But finally it's happened. So you might not see us together for a while because, schedules and all. So ask your questions. But I'd also want to just let you guys know that Getting is having a boot camp for graduate school applications, and it's pretty much like I don't even know. Like sometimes I feel like I shouldn't even be publicizing the boot camp because it should be publicizing itself because it's so good. But we basically, if you're thinking about grad school in the future, whether you are undergrad right now, whether you've graduated, whether you're thinking about it in the next 2 years, in fact, I really recommend those who are thinking way ahead because there's some strategies you can implement now that are going to help you in the future, right? So if you're thinking about going to grad school and you want to know how to stand out, you want to know the things you should be doing now, and you want a practical class, we didn't coordinate our outfits, so it just happened. Can you see that? And if you want a practical class like this is what the bootcamp is about. So we do this for CVs, we do this for, emails like this, like it is crazy, it's extensive. And we also have this special tool where we help you figure out why you're going to grad school, which I think is the most important part of it. So I don't know how I can emphasize how good the course is, but you guys should absolutely take the offer and register. And if you're not interested in the bootcamp just yet, but you feel like your CV needs an upgrade because, why not? You can also, book a CV review with us, and I'm offering a 10% discount to anybody who books today. So those are my sales pitches, because we have to keep this going. Please, you can join the boot camp. You'll find more details on my Instagram page, and if you want the offer for the CV review, it's literally just going to be on for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and that's it. Because you guys, it's 10,000, but we're offering it for 9,000 if you pay in 15 minutes. So that's that about that. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? We're here to take questions. Okay, that means we did a really great job. So I'll send you guys an email with more details about the boot camp. And since we're going to end soon, just for a limited time, the link for the 10% discount for the CV review payment will be available. But apart from that, I really hope this has been useful. This is the least we can do. If you have people who didn't join, if you think they should watch this, you can tell them to still register, send them the link, and they'll get a link to the replay. So yeah, that's it. Tega, thank you so much for sparing your time. It's like, what time is it over there? Like 1
It's midnight, 12:37.
And it is just 8.
But I'm not even going to sleep. I took some notes. I'm going to go through them myself.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Go to our website, sign up for the boot camp, tell everyone about it, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.